Welcome back, everybody, to our second episode of The New Order, The Last Days of Europe. I'm excited about this series, and it appears you are too. If you didn't see the first episode, there's a link in the description below that will take you back to that first episode. It is now January 1963, and we are ready to finally do something about the segregation issue that has haunted our nation. Not only in the 1960s, but for decades and decades before this, all the way back to the post-Civil War era where Reconstruction just kind of fell apart and didn't do what it was supposed to. Hopefully we can start to pick up the pieces and deal with that right. As always, if you like this and you want to see more of it, please watch all the way to the end. Please leave a comment and please hit that like button. That all helps tremendously, and I appreciate your support. Also appreciate the support of all the folks who are supporting this channel through Patreon, and the overwhelming, almost unanimous sense of our war council over on Patreon was that isolationism is the best policy for the United States right now. I completely agree. I'm glad that they feel that way. And we will have another posed question, hopefully, to the council at the end of this episode. Isolationism combined with the Cold War tactic of kind of secretly feeding our allies in countries where they can kind of be insurrectionists against fascist governments. That's going to be the policy. But for right now, it's time to select the national focus that's going to start us down the road of dealing with the segregation issue. So we're going to choose the Kennedy Plan, which is after the split of the Republican-Democratic Party. And this is going to take us down the road where we can actually deal with the 1862 Civil Rights Act. Welsh Unionists win election. Pro-English coalition of independents was swept into power. Interesting. So I'm wondering then if that means that Wales is going to join with the Kingdom of England. I guess we'll see if that's what happens there. This is a Russian government, the all-Russian government of Amur. There is that. That's actually a fascist state. Interesting. All right, we talked about this briefly in the last episode, but John Glenn is now going to be the governor of Ohio, which is pretty cool. He's now sitting in the Ohio State House planning his next move, thinking in decades. With his popular support and now his political foothold as governor, there's practically no limit to how far his ambition can take him. Already he imagines himself in the White House and begins to set into motion his glacial plan to get there and change the fate of America forever, one giant leap. Interesting. Very cool. As I mentioned in the last episode, I am old enough to remember when John Glenn was one of my senators here in Ohio. Always thought very highly of him. Will President Nixon not simply do something? Well, no, we're not. I'm not really kind of getting involved in the elections a whole lot right now. Let's take a look here. We've got 171 political power. So who can we campaign for the monarchist cause in South Africa? No, I don't think so. Let's keep smuggling weapons to English underground folks. HMMLR is also a part of that. So we're going to do everything we can. This would be a great place to get a foothold for democracy in Europe if we could maybe turn England back toward democracy. We'll see if that happens. Okay, the Kennedy Plan's complete. Stagnation in the Senate. The Civil Rights Act simply means that it's another effort on the part of this president to dominate the country by force and put into effect these uncalled for and the damnable proposals that he recommended under the guise of so-called civil rights. Tell Johnson to hurry up with those deals. So Lyndon Johnson's the Senate Majority Leader at this point in history. In this alternate timeline, he was in the 1950s, I think, the Senate Majority Leader, but he's obviously not the Vice President this time. All right, 1962 Civil Rights Act. That's going to take 35 days. I'll be interested to see if this opens up a new focus tree, if we end up losing Nixon as president, or if we got to wait until the election in 1964 to make that happen. The National Progressive Party is growing in influence and popularity across the nation. It increasingly seems a viable alternative to the decades-long Republican-Democrat dominance in the American politics. Let's make some change happen. All right, so we're working on land doctrine right now. Got some unassigned divisions. Let's go ahead and get them assigned. The Civil Rights Act of 1962 has passed. A turning point in the story of our nation. Excellent news. The question is, what does that mean now as far as our national focus goes? It seems like we still are going to be under the Nixon presidency at least until the next election, or if something else were to happen to Nixon. So there's not a lot of choices left to me. I don't think we can do... Oh, we can do smashing the crested wave. All right, so this actually might be a way to go, but I do want to finish off our tree over there on the right first. So let's deal with those last couple of things, and then we'll see where the world is at that point. All right, so now we're going to choose Integrate the Support, which is going to allow us to send more aid to our allies. Once we've completed that, there'll only be one choice left in this tree, which is right here, Look into the Reformer. And what that's going to do is going to give us the effect of passing a bill to secure the support of Congress before we can directly support our favored candidate. Okay, so now we have the option, now that we've completed this national focus tree, sell South Africa guns. So let's go ahead and start sending them guns. Now we're looking at national focus, and I realize there's really nowhere else to go except smashing the crested wave. So let's go ahead and start choosing that tree. We're about a year and a half, a little less than a year and a half away from presidential elections, but I expect the first domino to fall in this is all going to be about the death of Adolf Hitler. So we'll see what happens when all of that goes down. All right, not unexpected. News leaks that the Nixon campaign and the FBI conspired to wiretap political opponents during the 1960 election. Outrage is fierce, and of course this is probably going to lead to the downfall of Richard Nixon. I don't know if that means that John F. Kennedy will become president, and then I'm very curious to know whether or not November of 1963 will hold to history and Kennedy will end up being assassinated. I have no idea what's going to happen. Some of you have already played this mod, so you probably have an idea of what to expect. I don't. I'm kind of curious to see how these events unfold. J. Edgar Hoover strode into Nixon's private office in room 180 of the State War and Navy building, not even stopping to knock. Dick, he says with exasperation, the files got out. Those are the ones that I told him to burn. And he says, of course, I'll investigate the matter fully and try to prevent any further information leaks in the meantime, Mr. President. He'd better, or the next leak will be his letter of resignation. Not looking good for Mr. Nixon right now. We're going down the Indian subcontinent focus tree. We are going to recognize the Republic of India diplomatically. It's going to hurt us with some of the area nations around that, but we're going to do it anyway. All right, so we've got some choices down here. Extending an olive branch, aligning India with America begins with further trade between our two countries. So, getting India into our very tiny alliance would be a big, big deal. It's one of the largest nations on Earth. Certainly a lot of potential there if supported right. So let's go ahead and invest in startup companies. It's going to improve our GDP growth a little bit. Also should definitely strengthen those ties between our two governments. All right, so it looks like somebody smuggled a firebomb onto the deck of a Japanese carrier, I'm assuming, in one of the ports here in California. Nixon apologized and is doing everything diplomatically to kind of keep the whole issue quiet so it doesn't become a major concern. So here is recognizing the Republic of India. As President of the United States, it is my honor to recognize Her Excellency Vijaya. I'm not going to try to do that. As Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary from the Republic of India to the United States of America. So we have opened up diplomatic relations with India. That's a huge step toward, hopefully, alliance with them. Let's go ahead and continue down this way. We're going to give them arms and money. I'm going to do money first and then arms after that. While we're waiting for more things to happen, I want to open the ledger for just a minute and just kind of take a look at where things stand in the world as far as the powers of the world. So factories, only Germany has more factories than the United States. Obviously, they have far more political power. Among war support, obviously, Germany does not have much war support right now. Stability, India is at 100%, so is Sweden, and so is Japan. France is right up there, so is Brittany. So there's a lot of stability. We're pretty stable at 80%. Considering everything that the U.S. went through historically in the 60s, I will take 80% stability anytime. Political power, Mexico and Paraguay are maxed out at 2,000. Boy, it'd be nice, to have all of that. Population-wise, obviously China has the most with 373 million people. India is second largest, then the United States. So allying with India would make the second and third largest nations on Earth allied with each other. Nobody has more than 4 research slots, so that's good. Here's the army. Now, this is where it's a very different story, obviously. Germany's got 110 divisions. We have 37, which makes us the 4th largest army. We're probably going to need to start building up the military, although we only have 160,000 in free manpower. So I'm not so sure that's going to help a lot. Navy and Air Force. Obviously, we have the largest Navy, which is very good news, and that'll come in handy. We don't have any nukes. In fact, does anybody? Nobody has any nuclear bombs. Japan has the most nuclear reactors. We have 8, puts us second, tied with Italy. So here's industry. We have the most civilian factories. We do not have the most military factories. Germany by far has the most of those. We only have 23. We probably need to start building up some more military factories. We almost have the most dockyards. We do not have any fuel saved up, so we're going to have to deal with that. Territory, I'm not really concerned about that. And then here are the factions. So my faction actually has 8 members. I didn't realize we had that many. Let's take a look at the factions for a minute. Here we go. So there's the Unity Pact, which is the German fascist kind of alliance that they have going on there. They've got the Arab League. They've got southern parts of Africa. They've got nobody in the Western Hemisphere. So the Organization of Free Nations includes the United States, Canada, Guyana. Nobody over here that I can see. Australia, New Zealand. There must be more. I'm just not seeing who. Oh, here we go. We've got Belize right here. Is this Jamaica? Yeah. Puerto Rico right here. And then we've got, I don't know who this is. Curacao. Very interesting. All right, so that's where things stand. Let's go ahead and subsidize businesses in India. That'll take 30 days to be doing that. We're about halfway to investing in India with our money. I don't know if clicking on the start of something beautiful officially gives us an alliance. I'm looking to see. It doesn't appear to show that. But that'll be very cool if we add them. Scotland has asked to buy fighters. Yes, we'll sell them some fighters. Anything to get weapons in the hands of Europeans that might fight against the Germans down the road would be excellent. The 1963 Freedom Ballot. In barbershops, churches, drugstores, and groceries, from the bustling streets of Jackson to the quiet, stricken towns of the Delta, black people in Mississippi are going to the polls. That's actually really good news. More than 80,000 people will cast their votes in the 1963 Freedom Ballot, several times more than are registered to vote in the entire state. It won't end segregation or voter discrimination. White civil servants will put on their suits tomorrow and quiz prospective voters on inane things and deny them their franchise. All right, so hopefully we can deal with the unrest in the South and bring some solution to that. I am not above, if I get the opportunity, going all full reconstruction and sending troops into the South. That's what I got to do to deal with this. We're about to complete And Our Money. So we're going to invest in India. And now we'll go ahead and give them our weapons as well. We're going to send 1,000 infantry equipment and 400 anti-tank equipment to India. All right, we're going to start cranking out military factories. We've got to get somewhat on the level of where the Germans are. I know we're not anywhere close to that, but let's at least ramp up production of military goods. We're also going to keep on doing research as quickly as we possibly can to try and keep up technologically with the Germans. Here we go. The Npp calls for impeachment. So we know this is probably just the beginning. And historically, I guess I'm just kind of watching for the continued parallels between what happened in the 1970s with Richard Nixon. Nixon would have been impeached if he hadn't resigned. So he kind of saw the writing on the wall. And when they started to gather to officially deal with articles of impeachment in the House was when he decided to go ahead and step down. So we are actually coming up 5 days from now on the historic date of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I don't know if we're going to see something like that happen because there are a lot of parallels between this universe and the real one. The dates aren't always the same, but you can see those things happening. So I'm going to just kind of sit here and watch and see if the 20th passes while we choose Start of Something Beautiful. So let's go ahead and see if something happens to our vice president on the 20th. I guess we're going to pass quietly. We did. Okay. So this all-Russian government of Amur has also taken some territory in Ireland. And I should point out, I thought of it afterwards, that Kennedy's assassination was November 22nd, 1963. The 20th was stuck in my mind. It's because it's my son's birthday. He's going to be 13 this year in a couple of weeks. So that's probably why I was talking about the 20th. All right, we finished all of the tree for India. Now we're going out to bring out the tinderbox. And this will be Indonesia and the Philippines. So it looks like we're really looking for opportunities all over the place to go ahead and just kind of stir things up a little bit. What do we have available to us for choices now? Smuggle the English lots of weapons. We just need a few more points to be able to do that one. All right, bringing out the tinderbox is complete. So the President's Daily Brief. It's going to be a proxy war in Southeast Asia. Where have we heard that one before in the mid-1960s? But in this case, it looks like probably Indonesia and the Philippines are where we're going to be focusing rather than Vietnam. So friends in the Philippines, fighting Filipinos, strike the match. All right, so we're just going to work our way down both of those trees. All right, election season has begun. Not only a presidential election, but also the Class 1 Senate election. Pearl Harbor Monument. Department of Justice begins an investigation into Nixon. I think we're going to go... Oh, boy, I don't know. We could probably get John Glenn if we go NPP. Who's in charge of these different factions? So, RD, Democrat, is John F. Kennedy. Social Democracy is the NPP. They're the kind of center party, I guess. Is that what that C means? I think it is. Henry Jackson. Far right is George Wallace. Yeah. So let's go with the center. Let's go with the NPP. That's kind of the center ideologically. Iberia offers assistance in South Africa. Excellent. The more, the merrier. Kennedy shows his true colors. Vice President Kennedy, are you insinuating that the investigation into the president for criminal activity is justified? I am saying that any question of wrongdoing on the president's part can only be answered in the court of law. If President Nixon is impeached and removed from office, how would you react? I would respect the decisions of the Senate. So I'm not going to really do anything to mess with what's happening. We just had a big earthquake in Alaska, which was something that happened historically, one of the most powerful earthquakes in history. And we've been granted an island, I believe down here. Nope, that's not it. That we'll be able to use for a base if we need to against Africa. So right here, we have these islands here. There's St. Helena, Ascension, and then I think this is the one they just gave us, Sao Tome, right there. So those are all important bases that will be able to be launching off points for not only our Navy, but also our Air Force, should it come to war in Africa. Ford debuts the Mustang. All right. couple months away from presidential election, and that's probably the point at which we'll stop this episode. We'll take it right up to see what happens in the election of 1964. Nixon's staffers arrested. Well, the interesting thing, though, is that all this is going down right before the election, so I'm not entirely sure how much it really shakes things up if Nixon was going to lose anyway, which I don't know. I don't even know who's running for the other side. I guess we haven't found that out yet because the conventions happen in the summer. I think we're pretty well caught up on technology here. Let's look at naval technology now. 1960s right here, and we've got most of the 1960 technology already done. We're going to resume battlefield. I thought we already resumed battleship development. All right. The end of the line. With all the paperwork signed and noon just seconds away, Nixon opened the doors to the south lawn of the White House, holding it for Pat, Tricia, and Julie, followed by John and Jackie Kennedy. The press, of course, turned out to revel in his dethronement, a final twist of the knife. So John F. Kennedy is now president of the United States. So even before the election happens, we've got ourselves a new president. So I'm just waiting for this to kind of unlock now. Let's see where we're at. All right, so I don't know if that means, yep, looks like the national focus tree is new, and it's a very small one, so I guess we're not expecting much from the Kennedy presidency. Let's take a look and see. Mend the rifts, reach out to Dixiecrats, reassure progressives, meet with politicians, meet with the people, heal the people, fair deal, so I guess we just go ahead and start with the Kennedy presidency. We're still going to take this up to the election, although I'm expecting at this point, I guess, that Kennedy is going to be reelected. John W. McCormick is now the head of the Liberal Democracy Party. Okay, I see what's going on here. So here's a cause for celebration. Come on, Bobby, you're embarrassing me. It's a conversation between John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. And he says, I know you'll do great, Jack. I'll see you when you get back from Dallas. All right, so we are going to see Kennedy being assassinated here, I guess, before we get very far at all. All right, there it is. So I don't know who's going to take over now because we don't have a vice president. John McCormick. Okay, so he's the Speaker of the House. John F. Kennedy has been assassinated. So, boy, that changes things big time. And I guess we're on to another new national focus tree. So let's take a look and see where that puts us at this point. John W. McCormick, now President of the United States. So this is where we have some choices to make. And we're going to wrap it up right here, even though we don't have an election yet. We'll get to that. We're going to choose the McCormick presidency, healing a broken nation. Then we've got to do save Nixon's legacy, the African gamble, or do we go down, move past Nixon, Speaker of the House, of the White House, a soul in torment, he was a crook, or passing of the torch. A lot of choices to be made, but I don't think I'm going to have a new decision for our cabinet just yet. I think we're going to have to wait for the next presidency to do that. So I'll kind of leave things there. If you have input as to where we go from here, use the comment section below. Patrons, you can do that over on the existing post that I already have. You can add to that post and give me your feedback. There's really not a lot at the moment. I think once we have a new president, we have a big new focus tree. There's going to be some really tough decisions to be made, and that's when I'm going to really rely on your support. But in the meantime, hit that like button, leave a comment. We'll see you again soon in a few days with another episode.